summit here at Trevor Able Saddlery in Queensland, and this is the first of our interviews that we're going to be conducting on behalf of Just Equus. What we're trying to do is establish that in Australia we have got a lot of good people in the horse industry. Not just good people, but very accomplished people. And rather than looking to go overseas with what we do, we should be backing our industry here. And so it gives me great pleasure that we're talking to Trevor, and we're also very fortunate for him to give us some time, because life has things happening and his business, so we just appreciate that very much. Very much, thank you. So what I'd like to start with is basically just start off, give us a little bit of a background of Trevor Able.
Oh, well, I went to school like any other kid, I suppose, and I had I guess, you know, you're watching cowboy movies when you're a kid, as kids did in those days. Mostly that was what was on, and so I just took a liking to it pretty quick, and I actually made a deal with my dad when I was 13, because I started reading these books in the school library about the Stockman in North Queensland and all that sort of thing, and that might have actually been the title of the book, I can't remember. But anyway, so there was a rodeo rider's book in there as well, and I used to constantly hire those things out of the library, you know, and they were booked out most of the year with me, I think. So take them home and read them. Anyway, so I guess I had a bit of a fascination with it all, you know, and my family weren't involved with horses or cattle or anything like that. It's just something that clicked with me. And
Yes.
I left school, I made a deal with Dad, because he did have a apprenticeship lined up for me as a butcher.
Righto.
Because he had a mate that had a butcher shop, and anyway, I certainly didn't want to do that. I just wanted to get out and go north. And,
Yes.
so I wanted to leave then and there, and of course you couldn't leave school at 13. So I made a deal with him that I had to pass every subject, a good pass, like in the 70%ers,
Okay.
and then I could go if I wanted to go. Otherwise I was an apprentice butcher.
Yes.
So man, I studied so hard. I ended up with 86% in maths. So, and that was unheard of for me. I just studied and studied science. I got something like 60-something% in science. So anyway, it was all there, I guess. I just didn't want to use it, you know. I just wanted to go north. So I ended up going north, up into the Gulf country, a place called Croydon,
Yes.
or just outside of Croydon, a place called Esmeralda.
Yes. Yes.
And Kenny Cameron had it in those days.
Okay.
And that place was 1,600 square mile.
It's a big bit of land, big parcel.
They have split it up, I think, since over the years. But anyway, yeah. So that's where the journey began with the horses and cattle. And you know, there's some hard days. It was pretty hard work.
Were you still packing out at that time with the horses?
No, he didn't pack. No, he didn't have a big enough crew, to tell you the truth. I mean, it was me and David Hope, old Ken, and one old Murray fella, Normie Hayes and Johnny Banning.
Yes.
Were up there. Normie was from Croydon.
Yes.
He's passed away, poor old fellow, and I don't know about John. But that was the crew, you know. There was 4 of us that muster 1,600 miles, and
That's tough.
but you know, we did it pretty old school, you know. There was no packing out, but certainly, you know, if you're out with cattle overnight a lot of the time, and you know, we just take 2 sandwiches instead of 1.
Yeah.
You know, that'd get you through the night, and then you'd be home. Most times it was never more than overnight with cattle.
Okay.
We were mustering. And then of course I was always fascinated with the gear, saddles and bridles and gear we were using there, and I just thought, gee, I'd maybe like to make some of this one day. And you know, I messed around on my own, and old Ken, he used to do a bit of rawhide braiding and that sort of stuff.
Really?
Yeah. He was a really good rawhide braider, old Ken.
Did he do his own hinds and everything and split it all for himself? And
did all that himself, and you know, I think he just had an old pocket knife. You know, there was no splitters or anything like that. He used to do it all with a pocket knife, and pretty accomplished braver he was. But he never made any of the cowboy gear, like no bozels or anything like that. It was. I remember one surcingle he made up was about might have been a 20-something plat surcingle that went over the top of the old flap saddle,
Yeah. And with just D's on each end.
Yeah.
And you get leather strap. Yeah.
So he made one of them up just for something to do, And there was no power there was a generator there, but him being Scottish, he ripped it out pretty quick because it burnt too much diesel. So he ripped her out straight away as soon as he bought the place, and then he had a lot of old carbide lights and kerosene, the old kerosene lanterns and that sort of thing. There was no power, so there was no washing machine. So we did it pretty tough compared to what blokes are doing these days.
Yes. Yeah.
It's pretty easy going these days. Even with the big days, you get home and you've got a television and an aircon and a washing machine, and it's all there. So, but anyway, from there I sort of went into Croydon. I ended up working for the Pickering brothers there for quite a few years, on and off. For most of them, different families of them,
Yes.
And then of course my fascination with gear continued, and I ended up making a few little things for myself, get a bit of leather off old Ken, and I'd stitch a bit of stuff up, and pocket knife, belt, and all that sort of stuff, and then I never really got interested in saddle making until actually making saddles until I run into Michael Bethel and
Yes.
those fellas, and
They're very family orientated. A lot of the places in the Gulf, like there'll be the Bethels here, and that's exactly right.
And if there was a do on, rodeo or whatever, you'd be up at Georgetown, and all the Bethels would be there, and you see the gear that Michael had made, and you think, gee whiz, that's nice. I'd like to be able to do that one day. And anyway, so I focused on that a bit, and it was probably 96, I think, I made my first saddle.
What style of saddle was it?
It was a stock saddle.
Yes.
So like a swing and fender stock saddle.
Okay.
What I call a Western stock saddle.
Okay. Did it have skirts on it?
Yep, skirts. It wasn't counterlined. I know I never got into the counterlining thing. I thought that's another whole ball game to learn that. And the way things were going in those days is, people were starting to use the swing and fender type saddles over the traditional old counterline saddles. They were sort of basically getting a thing of the past.
Yes.
Then, even, So I thought, well, if you're going to do it, I'll do it a bit serious. But I was still working the whole time in those days, and it was difficult as far as I'd be out mustering all day. You wouldn't get home till 9 at night sometimes, and then you go pick the tools up, and crummy old little table I had for a bench, I think.
I was curious about that. So you had a little workshop there at the place there somewhere, and you set yourself up?
When I started making saddles, I did it, and that was at Mount Mulgrave, over near Chilligo.
I know.
Right next to
Park.
I was
at the park,
yeah, so I did set up a bit of a decent sized bench in there, and that was in the lounge room.
How'd you go sourcing gear?
Well,
because that would be hard, I suggest. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know.
Yeah, it was because I didn't know anyone or anything about the industry. Only Michael, and Michael was pretty careful with what knowledge he shared. I guess, you know what I mean? And
Yes.
he'd tell you a few little things, but he wouldn't tell you a lot, you know. So it was really difficult for me to learn in that area at that time.
So what did you do? Did you look at pictures? Did you
a book.
find a saddle you pull apart, or
that? And I had a couple of books. One was by John Hopper, called Complete Cowboy Saddle Making, I think it was called. But very difficult if you didn't know anything to follow that and to try and achieve something out of it. So I got hold of this video, a VHS tape, and Bruce Cheney put it out, and it was called How to Make a Roping Saddle.
yes,
So I got hold of that one, and I would have watched that thing probably 5,000 times, stop, rewind, you know, to see where I was going with it. And you know, then after that I built a stock saddle off that video though. So it was difficult because there was a totally different front end, you know. There was a roping saddle in the video and I was building a stock saddle. And
so you got to cut all your own patterns and work out, and being the first, that's
so,
an achievement in itself.
So hard to you know, just nut all that stuff out with no help, you know. And, anyway, I got my first saddle made, and I thought, gee, that's, and I was terrible proud of that thing, you know. I'd be up till 2 in the morning, you know, putting that thing together, and there was other fellas there in the quarters, you know, the ringers' quarters, that hear me tapping away all night and couldn't sleep, and so I wasn't real popular when I was doing late work, you know, because everyone was up at 4:30 every morning, so, you know, they were big days back then, just to learn, you know. And anyway, over time, I probably made, I guess, 13 or 14 saddles. One was a roping saddle, and the rest were those swinging fender type.
Where did you source your trees for your fenders and your roping saddle?
Well, I started off with Addison Sandy, Mick Sandy, they're brothers over there in Gympie somewhere. I started off with them, and of course Mick, he was always busy with orders. He's pretty popular, and Addison, I think, was very popular back in those days. And anyway, so it was, and that, you know, that's part of the information Michael did share, is where to get a tree from, and you know, and anyway, so after those 13 or so, I think I made a bronc saddle. Yes. And I wanted a bronc saddle tree, but I wanted it made out of raw, you know, rawhide bound tree, not just a fiberglass or plastic one. So
was rawhide around in that time, or was that later?
No, rawhide was around, yeah, certainly.
Yeah. I was just curious.
And before that, it was. But I didn't, because I guess looking at that video and reading that book, those fellas used a lot of traditional methods and gear. Like it was all rawhided trees. Their methods of doing things never changed. You know, it was just start there, finish there, and it was done the same way every time. You know. The only thing that would change would be the tooling, design, and whatever. But the process from start to finish was the same, step by step order sort of thing. So anyway, I sort of stuck to that because that's all I had, and I still do it exactly the same way now. I haven't changed anything. I've changed a lot of my patterns, thank God, over the years, because you know, when you start out, you've got nothing. You work with what you invent, basically, and they were certainly didn't have the lines that they've got now. You know, and it's probably only over the last 5 or 6 years maybe that I've been happy with the way my saddles are looking.
Really? Yes. That's interesting, because But you can't forfeit that foundation bit, can you?
Oh no,
That's what's made you who you are.
Yeah.
You'd never change it, would you?
No,
because you've learnt more by having to do that. You don't necessarily want other people to have to reinvent everything you had to work out.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
for yourself, that's made you a master saddler, basically. That's what it boils down to.
But I probably would have, if I had my time over again, I would have, because I was always interested in making roping saddles, more so than stock saddles. It's just where I was, and the country I was in is what orders I got.
Yes.
90% of them back at the start were stock saddles.
Yes.
But if I had my time over again, I would have left Australia then and went to America and learnt from one of the good fellas, Troy West or Terry Hansen certainly.
Okay.
I would have asked them for help.
Okay.
And Chuck Storms up there in Canada, I mean, there's things those fellas are doing are just amazing.
Really? Yes, yeah.
So if I had my time over, I would have went to one of those blokes to help me out, get me going, and then I would have come back.
Yeah, and put your feet down.
It would have been a much easier run, I can assure you, to do that.
You must have great support with your wife and that sort of thing. So.
Oh, certainly, yeah.
Those things don't happen, do they?
No, that's
family support and
that's right. Yeah, definitely. She's been there certainly since the last 5 years.
Yes.
When we've got back into it full time again. It's certainly been a big help. Definitely.
Yeah. No. That's just fantastic. I actually have.